I remember the BOMAG. Yes.
Let's call the meeting to order. We are all present this evening except for George. George is in Washington, D.C. tonight and tomorrow night, picking up some rewards for the Air Force Association. Item 2, at the Commissioner's request, discuss any item of concern on the regular sessions and the agenda for September the 19th, 2017.
I'm concerned about all of them, but I don't have any questions.
I don't believe that. Very good. Hearing
My only
none.
question is if we can possibly make them any shorter.
Do what?
The wording on some of these is like half a page long.
Mm-hmm.
Is that as short as they can possibly be made?
We're going to start out on one of them tonight.
We might get to it tomorrow.
Well, I don't think, we don't have to read them. We could just say, you know,
Oh, okay.
like the first one, we can say, this is, but the first one's pretty small. I gave the mayor a suggestion on the capital recovery.
That'll work.
I'm telling you the truth, then.
Yeah. I believe you.
We're going to shorten
See,
some
those
of
don't
that.
look.
That'll work for me.
Yeah, I mean, compared to
Compared to some we've had.
I
these are-
guess that's true.
Yeah.
That one was with all the legal description.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I have
That
nothing.
one was crazy.
I have nothing of substance.
We will test it tonight.
Yeah.
Item 3, present the status update on the new Woodring Airport Terminal building. Oh no, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're in good company. You're not in Washington, D.C.
That's right. Commissioners, city manager, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be a little dramatic tonight because this is something I'm really excited about. For the past several years, we've put about $13 million worth of infrastructure repairs and upgrades at Woodring Regional Airport. Tonight, I'm going to brief a new terminal that will change the face of Woodring dramatically. For the past few months, Caleb and I have been working with engineers, architects, and a lot of other people to come up with as good a design as we can to include all the stuff that we want to have in a terminal, what a terminal like this should have. One of our primary focuses was to design something that when a passenger pilot lands at Woodring, they look at it and go, wow, welcome to Woodring, welcome to Enid. And it really pumps them up. So our architect put together a little animation to show what it would look like given the design that we've put together if you landed and taxied up to the new terminal. This is landing from the north.
Is that
That's the
water?
first exit. Usually the runway doesn't quite look like
I was
that,
gonna say, it's very shiny.
but it's as good as they could do. You can see that's the joint use terminal or joint use hangar. There's the hangar or the tower, and here's the new terminal. Watch out for the props.
That's good.
That's right.
Yeah.
We have the appropriate elevator music to go with it.
Was this somebody bobbing their head in the front there?
They actually are. It's an architect
It's so
design, and
Yeah.
in an animation, they are moving.
This only cost us $3 million. Walking in place.
This is walking in from the parking lot area. The new lobby, restaurant on the right. Now we'll go to a few slides. Not that one.
The guy on the left is the TSA officer.
Right.
There we go. That's what we believe our new terminal will look like. I'll cover basically an overview. We'll cover all these items. And if you have any questions during it, I'm happy to take them or at the end. Inputs. We visited 4 terminals. We flew to 4 terminals on one day, Caleb and I, along with our engineer. And these are terminals that were built recently, Ada, Swanee, Durant, and Muskogee. We got ideas from each of them. We talked to each of the airport managers and said, hey, what do you like about your facility? What do you wish you had put in your facility? And we took their inputs. We talked to a lot of corporate pilots and kind of asked them the same thing, because they fly around to different terminals all the time. What do you need? What kinds of things do you wish you had? What things do you like about some terminals? Okay. We talked to our tenants. We talked to Jamie at Barnstormers to get her inputs on what we really needed to do to fix up that restaurant a little bit. The Airport Advisory Board gave us some inputs as well, and of course the architects and the engineers. The scope of the project, pretty straightforward. Our budget is $1.8 million. That's been driven into my head many times, so I got that figured down. That is our goal, not to exceed. 7,300 square feet. The current terminal is about 6,800 square feet, so that gives you an idea. A little bit of growth. Okay. We wanted to separate the business and the restaurant. A lot of times we get passengers coming in when the restaurant's closed, and they go and sit there and leave a mess, or a lot of times they'll come during the lunch hour or breakfast hour and take up a lot of spaces. It really, in the end of the day, it seems reasonable to be able to close that restaurant when they're not using it. So we got the idea from Durant on having 2 kind of separate facilities there. And this our design will allow for expansion for commercial service down the road sometime.
Is that as an add-on?
It would be an add-on, yeah. And I'll show you where that would go here in just a minute. Locations considered. Where do we want to put this? Do you put it closer to the tower? We could put it between the current location and the maintenance facility off to the west, or we could put it right where it is. At the end of the day, we believe that right where it is the ideal location. Unfortunately, there's an old terminal in the way. So we would have to build a temporary facility while the new one was being built at a cost. And at the end of the day, we said, why don't we just build it back into the parking lot area? We would build the new one, move into the new one, then tear the old one down, and if we have money left over, we'll fill in some of the ramp area and we'll end up with more ramp space. So that's where we decided to go. We would need to probably rebuild the parking lot anyway because of all the work, all the heavy trucks over it. So what the heck, we'll rebuild that parking lot as well, and we'll expand it to the north. And that way we'll have a new parking lot and a new terminal.
The additional ramp space, is that for the incoming commercial airlines?
It could be commercial or for the
corporate
general
airlines,
aviation aircraft.
as opposed to the Air Force?
Yep. Well, anyone could park there. We're nice,
They've
we're
got
easy.
12 or 15 new spaces there.
You never have too much space.
Yes.
As I mentioned, we would separate the business and the restaurant. The restaurant, some of the improvements that we're looking for is a larger, more efficient kitchen. This design actually doubles the size of the kitchen. The gals back there are running into each other all the time, and it's really not very efficient. They need a walk-in freezer and a walk-in fridge. We've got several fridges and freezers around. Why don't we just make 2, along with storage areas as well. Private dining area that really should be in the kitchen, in the restaurant itself, and this allows for that as well. Additional seats as well. You'd have probably about 20 extra seats in this restaurant than you would from the other one. On the business side, we need 24-hour access to a larger and better equipped pilot's lounge. We have a pilot's lounge right now, but it's very, very small. And you have to go through the terminal when the terminal's open to get to it. And one of the inputs we got from corporate pilots and some of the other terminals was to make that 24-hour accessible. Have a room where they could go in. If they need to take a nap, they could. If they need to take a shower, they could. A lot of these corporate pilots, they'll come in the morning, like 8 o'clock. They'll leave their passengers to go downtown for meetings and that sort of thing. And then the passengers come back about 5 o'clock. Well, having a separate lounge where they can take a nap, take a shower if they need to, is a big, big plus. And 24-hour access, they would have a door with a cipher code to it so that they come in the middle of the night, and we would tell them it's like the tower frequency or something like that. Something only aviators would be able to look up and find out. Also, 24-hour access to the lobby. We would leave the lobby open, and I'll show you that to you in a minute. It had vending machines and then access to the bathrooms as well. A joint planning room, a joint flight planning room. I think you've heard me mention this before. Have a larger planning room than we have right now. The table, computers, briefing areas. We have a very small one right now. We really need a larger one. A dedicated conference or safe room. A conference room so that we or anyone in the city could actually use it as an area to meet, or for corporates to meet their visitors. A corporation here is meeting someone that's coming in, they could meet at that place at the airport. I say safe room as well. If we have the money, we'd like to harden it a little bit and make it an actual safe room for the terminal. And then the passenger lobby. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of passengers will come in, like lunchtime, breakfast, or anything. We really need a separate place for them to be. And this would include that as well. Now, I know this is a little hard to, it's just for basically positioning purposes. This is where the current terminal is. This is the current parking lot area. We would have basically 2 rectangular sized buildings. This would be the restaurant. This would be the business section. And then depending on the money that we have left over, we'd fill a lot of this in so that you could actually park aircraft over there as well. I know you can't read this, but I'll go through it and point out the finer points. This is the lobby coming in that you saw earlier in the video. Lobby coming in, vending machines, turn right, you go into the restaurant. You can see there's a lot of tables in here. That's where the restaurant patrons obviously would sit. Counter here, kitchen back in this area, cooler, freezer, dry storage. This would be the private dining area back in here, and you could use it for dining or I mean, anyone during the regular day could use it, obviously, or you could have little events in there. If you come in this direction, this would be where the passenger lobby would be. This would be our counter, as those of you that have come in to the airport, that would be the counter where we handle the business areas, paying for fuel and that sort of thing. This would be the operations manager's office with a big window in here so he or she could keep an eye on what's going on over there. This would be the manager's office, again, with a big window there, and windows over here so you can see what's going on the flight line. This would be the pilot's lounge, the lounge area here with probably a TV, a couple computers, that sort of thing, with snacks. This would be the bathroom with shower, and then the sleeping area probably with a couple of big lounge chairs in it. This would be the entrance to this, and you could walk around, come in, use the cipher code at after hours. This would be the joint use planning room, a couple of briefing areas back here, a couple of tables, computers, printers, those sorts of things. The conference room is over here, large conference table, adequate for about 15, 20 people. And again, a safe room if we can afford it, if the money allows. And then you would have a couple of storage areas in here, maybe some lockers in here for airport technicians. The bathrooms are over here, and this would be 24-hour access both to the lobby and to the bathrooms. We would close this door and this door at night, and then this door and that door, or just this door right here. That's the setup, if you will. And this is the view from the front. I think you've already seen that. A little closer view from the parking lot area. Another view a little bit further away in the parking lot area. from the east as you drive in, and then this right here is the business side. The restaurant from the lobby,
Great
looking through
views.
I'm sorry?
It's a great views.
Yeah, it is. That was one of our premises. We wanted to have, you know, all glass around, like, pretty much like it is now, so that you can see outside. And looking through there's a tower right there, and there's the flight line with the aircraft parked out there. There is a provision, I think you probably saw that out here. If you look real closely, you can see some tables outside. On a day like today, this morning would have been great, right now would be terrible. So, you know, that'd be one thing we'd have to work. Here's another view. This is the restaurant, the lobby restaurant over here, looking back to the entrance. And then this is the lobby looking towards the flight line area. You can see the aircraft over there. Business side over here, restaurant over here. Aerial view, business side over here, and then the terminal.
Really nice.
Now, I need to mention the commercial side. If we were to get commercial service, our idea would be to put something very similar to this right over here so that it would be pretty much symmetric. And that would be where you'd take care of the commercial service.
Are you giving up
Yes.
any parking spaces that we have right now? Or are you adding to the parking spaces?
Yes and no. At the end of the day, we will have exactly what we have right now.
Okay. Because you're moving further east.
Right, right. And that's it.
What is this? Is this the open area here on the side?
Right here,
Yeah.
that's where we would have the dumpsters.
Ah, okay.
They're,
Look like you have plenty of room for dumpsters.
well, I want to make sure that we have our dumpsters covered. Any other questions?
It's nice.
Looks great.
Colonel Judy, any questions?
No, the joint planning room is really a necessity for us, and the access would be helpful as well, after hours kind of scenario.
What you're using now is more like a broom room.
It's a little tight in there.
Yes.
So this would
Just bring planes.
just bring a plane project.
Yes, it is.
So, no, that would be very helpful, and the access was good.
Is that a wooden ceiling in the top of that, or?
You caught me. I don't think it's a wooden ceiling. I don't know what it's made out of, to tell you the truth. We really haven't gotten quite that far. That would be for the engineers to work out.
What's your time frame to get started?
Well, talk to our engineers today, probably in a couple of weeks, give this whole thing to them from the architects. Then they would start working the plans and specs. Expect to have them by the end of the year or early next year. Put it out for bid probably January, February, and break ground probably by the end of April.
Oh, wow.
How long it will take, maybe 9 months. That's just a wild guess right now, but
So it could be done by the end of next year?
could be, could be.
If you don't get your,
Are
well,
you skeptical?
Very
Yes.
much. Not on
Absolutely.
the project, I think it's great, but by
The
by next
timing?
year,
Yeah.
yeah.
as construction goes, if you don't get more, if you need more than the $1.8 million, do
I would be shocked.
you have a game plan?
Gerald will shoot me. We do have a few other coins in the airport fund. If we get into that situation, we'll have to make some hard decisions. I mentioned earlier that we would, if money was available for the safe room and if money was available for the parking apron, we would make those alternates when we go out for our bid, get the main thing, and then if we can afford those other things, we would.
It's never going to get any cheaper than the next 2 years.
No.
If you need to be. To me, the safe room is a good idea, because you're out there in no man's land.
I agree.
Tornado.
And Gerald has mentioned, it's a good idea when building facilities nowadays, we ought to include something like that.
We're getting good money to get it started, so.
Do you want to discuss the money? Because most of it's coming from other
Sure.
sources.
As many of you recall, we did get a $500,000 donation from M.L. Becker, who recently passed. We're getting $500,000 from the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission. We were taking $500 out of the airport's fund, and we were trying to get about $300K from the Oklahoma Strategic Military Planning Commission for the joint use rooms.
That's $1.8 million.
That gives you $1.8 million. Now, we do have a few other funds coming back from the FAA for the runway extension that we could potentially tap into if we needed to.
Do.
I think you need to find a way to build a safe room and whatever else you need.
It'd be so cool if we did that for other money.
Cool, great.
Very good, Ono.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Item 4, discuss subsequent offense ordinance. Carol, is that you?
Yes. It's one paragraph. Yeah. And it basically, we have, and I have an example of a code section as well. We have throughout the code some subsequent offenses throughout probably almost every title of the code. And are we finding it?
Which one is it?
It's the subsequent offense and the example of code. It's under attachments, under the study session.
Is it 8.12?
It's not on the city council agenda,
just pull
it's
it
just
from the
on this
meeting?
one. It's on the study session. Okay, I can,
It's like the third page of what got sent out to us as the final agenda.
Okay.
so, it basically, instead of having, initially I had drafted each change to indicate that if you're going to be charged with a subsequent offense, then you need to be convicted of it. So, but there's lots of them throughout the code. So this section,
That's an example of what a convict looks like, right?
yes, okay.
Two contracts.
You're not finding it, okay.
No, I'm not.
So there's, well, I can kind of understand that because now I'm punching the sections on my deal and
Yeah, I've
they're
got
not
it.
coming up either. So basically it says if a code section indicates that that subsequent offenses have enhanced fines, then it is only after former conviction that the enhanced fine would occur. Not, and the difference is, it's after former conviction, it's not after being charged. So, it's because you're charged 5 times with nuisance. You have to be found guilty before one time and
For
then
the
a second
acceleration.
time for the accelerated enhanced fine. And I
Okay.
clarified as well that deferred sentences that are periodically, the judge gives a deferred sentence, and then at the end of the time period, if everything is met, the offense is dismissed. So that would not be included in the subsequent offense. And the other one was an example of the language, but
Does it count for, is this like criminal, is it all criminal stuff, or does it count with like code violations and stuff?
code
too?
violations are criminal violations. I mean, they're not,
They don't seem to be.
well, I
That's
mean,
my question.
they're municipal
Right.
violations, and the example that I had was of curfew. So, yes.
I was
it-
thinking like civil versus, I get you.
Yes, I understand. And code violations do have a sense of being civil,
But
but
they're
they
criminal.
are taken care of in municipal court. And if you don't pay your fines for a code violation, you can be, there's the language at the bottom,
There you go.
right there. That one little paragraph. So, and then if so that's the language instead of changing it for all of them. And then you could show, but I think I'm probably asking for too much. If we showed the example of the code section, which is underneath, example of code section underneath.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, and if you'll scroll to violations parental responsibility. Now, I will tell you that this does not happen very often, but if we go to the final page, here is an example of, keep going, right there, okay. See, it says, in any prosecution, conviction of the minor for violation together with proof, the violation of this article shall be punishable by a fine of up to $200. For the first offense, a fine of up to $400. For the second, a fine up to $750, plus costs for a third and subsequent offense. If, for instance, the parent was charged on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, they would all be $200 because our court system does not work that fast. So, but if they've been charged and found guilty, then the second offense, if they're found guilty, would be $400. And these are throughout the code, and our judges have been interpreting it as after former conviction. But, you know, at some point, our judges will retire, and it's probably better to have an explanation. So the explanation is in the subsequent offense ordinance, and it's a one-paragraph change.
Does that,
It's easy.
does that follow state recommendations, or is this City of Enid?
This is City of Enid.
What is the curfew?
Let's see. When is the curfew? There is a different
I
curfew
think it's 11
for-
during the week,
Yes,
midnight
and
during the weekend.
midnight.
And 12, yes.
Yes. But these are
It was very
for,
important to me when I was in high school.
yeah.
Apparently you're not supposed
And,
to drive after 10.
This is for,
I don't remember that one.
I think this is not for curfew, this is for, let's see, truancy. And I do not think that we charge parents that often with currency. So most of the time, if they were charged, the judge is gonna consider a $200 fine. But,
That all makes sense to me.
okay,
May I
yes,
ask a question?
yes.
How are we able to stick it to the parents if the child has been deemed out of control? Because many times, you know, it's been told that you can't chastise them, you can't discipline, or you're gonna go to jail. How do we come up with this to where, I mean, if a child's out of control,
Yeah, I understand.
You know.
We don't charge this very much. This was just an example. Most of these, probably the reason why the language hasn't been changed is because we don't charge it very often. And I actually think it's probably overkill that we've got the second and the third offense.
agree.
But you know, I'm the interim. I'm not, I just was trying to, you know, solve problems. I can't imagine our judge is going to charge $750. The other thing with this is that we would have to have a you know, if the over $500, it's a jury trial. So I think maybe these fines are a little bit high, but that wasn't, the subsequent offense wasn't I was just trying to solve the subsequent offense issue, not talk about the fines. This is just an example.
Carol, as a
However,
matter
if we
of
could do this on
information,
code violations, it'd be awesome.
Yes?
as a matter of information, do we have jury trials in city court?
Well, okay, we haven't had a jury trial. And I've always tried to keep,
Say that again.
we have not had a jury trial.
Okay, okay.
Now, we haven't had a jury trial and ever had a jury trial. And
Good, because I didn't know we
yes,
ever had one.
if we started to have jury trials, we would, it would be difficult for us. Because jury trials can take a week. and we've never impaneled a jury. And when I was here before, I tried to keep most of the fines below, at $500 so we wouldn't have jury trials. But we haven't had the issue come up, and I anticipate possibly that whoever is your next city attorney might bring some ordinances back to kind of reduce some of the fines so that we wouldn't have the specter of a jury trial. If the offense carries more than $500 or carries any jail time, then the person is entitled to a jury trial. Now, most people don't want to spend the money for a week's trial, and I think we would have a little trouble with our judges if we suddenly started having a lot of them. But it also, I mean, we've had this since 2014 and we haven't had a problem.
That'll work. Yeah, please no jury trials.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, having one would be kind of interesting and fun, but it would be so
No.
expensive.
It would be
And
super
where would we
expensive.
even put them? I mean,
Your
put the
office,
jury.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the deliberation. I mean, it just
It'd
boggles
be like
the
a
mind.
television
We have a
show.
courthouse that's closed on Saturday. We have a courthouse that's closed on Saturday.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if
Rent a
it was
space.
something serious, the district court could pick it up, or we could
Yes.
refer a serious
Yes.
matter to district
Yes.
court for
Most
prosecution.
of
and-
these offenses, other than a few, like curfew, there is a county and state equivalent.
Will that $500 be increased in the future?
It might be. When I first came in 1988, it was 200.
200?
But
Inflation may boost it up.
it might.
Wowza.
Okay.
That's it for this, unless you guys have more questions. We'll bring it back at
You can't
the
stretch
next
this for
meeting.
another hour?
Yeah.
I would be hard pressed to stretch it.
We're adjourned. Be sure you're back by 6:30.
Night court, yeah.
Thank you for joining us for the Enid City Commission study session. If you have any questions or comments, visit our website at enid.org.